Thank you everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. And to our awesome and esteemed panelists here, bring tons of experience and expertise, and also a lot of folks who are there, part of the in the attendees. So basically, just for some of the new folks, as we know, many of you have been there in many of them. So the basic idea of this interactive CISO roundtable is not just only the panelists providing their wisdom. So anyone from the audience also, we try to engage them, but just very short and crisp, so that we can within 1 hour, hopefully we can engage everyone possibly if they want to. The only thing is, when you're asking, just put on your video so people can see you. That's the idea of interactive. Idea was to create almost like a physical presence after COVID. And this turned out to be I just decided as an experiment about, this is, I think, the 26th CISO Roundtable. And in June of 2022, with two of the other CISO colleagues and another expert. So it certainly, I didn't expect that like 25, 30 people showed up, right, without much and fanfare. So, and it became very good for just to provide provide insights and in advancement of the industry more as a community. So it's not a selling kind of a thing. So just sharing expertise and insights and to the security industry. So there are basic three themes we'll talk. One is in the area of the CISO. The CISOs, as the CISO's role have been evolving a lot. Many of you who have been there for, a couple of decades, they can share. And then second is on the AI side, as there is so much investments to last 2 years, almost it'll be 2 years now, right? I think ChatGPT, since it came into the marketplace and how it changed overall, almost like the frenzy. That's what happens in Silicon Valley. I've been through this number of frenzied cycles when one boom starts and everyone start jumping in. Then 8, 10 months later, suddenly they start getting a little depressed because they realize some of the places they invested money, they don't know what's going to happen. Or I guess it's going to go bust, to be in a crude way, because I've been part of many of these. So we'll focus on that, because there are some, obviously out of that comes out many good innovative solutions and industries, as well as companies just from internet boom bust cycle. As you know, Amazon is a prime example, Google and all these companies who you never thought could survive. Amazon especially, they used to lose money so much, and look at where they are. So same thing, I think here also, you have reports in AI from like the next most innovative thing too. We'll see what happens. The third part is more around the solutions, whatever you are seeing in the market for those. So that will be the focus. So with that, let me just get started. My background is also in security infrastructure. I'm an entrepreneur. My current company started my career more as an engineer than with under John, as I was explaining to some of the folks. And then I started a firewall security company in late 90s, Ukiah, and we sold it to Novell. Actually, the interesting thing was Eric Schmidt used to be CEO there. Before that, he went to, he was reviving the Novell, which used to be one of the leading, those folks who were in 90s, and they probably remember. And then I did another infrastructure company, and then another couple of small. And so this one, the current company, Akitra, is in the cybersecurity compliance automation platform, and so a number of folks are my customers here also. So with that, I would Bill again brings distinguished careers as a CISO practitioner, as well as now he's in the venture world as an operating partner as well. So Bill, would you like to elaborate some more from your side?
Thanks for having me. So my name's Bill Harmar. I'm operating partner and in-house CISO for Craft Ventures. I've been in the industry 30 plus years. I've been in security for 27, 4 exits, 5 times CISO. I was CISO for SecureAuth, CISO and CIO, CISO for Zscaler, SuccessFactors. I was a global privacy officer there after the acquisition. Pleased to be here.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Then we had Jayshree here. Jayshree again has been in the whole security and cybersecurity domain. So Jayshree, she's currently at Humana, but I'll let Jayshree provide any details you want to.
Yeah, so I think I used to be a chip design engineer, then went and became a technical program manager. And I got my taste of like real product security at Splunk, which was like a very thriving R&D team and very good product security team. Then I followed my manager to Zoom, and then I am at Humana with a team which is doing penetration testing, ethical hacking, they call it. Much newer to security, like maybe 6.5 years versus many of you. Yeah.
Thank you, Jayshree. And then we have our, evergreen, entrepreneur here, Indus. Indus is a founder of Redblock. So Indus, would you like to provide a little more insights about you?
Yep. Again, my name is Indus Khaitan. Been in the industry for close to 2 decades. My earliest startup was in mobile security when iPhone 1 came out. We built a business and sold that company to Oracle in 2014. And after that, being some odd jobs here and there, and then started this new venture called Redblock, which is a last mile automation for cybersecurity. I live in the East Bay in a small town called Dublin. Offices are here in San Juan.
Thank you, Indus. All right. So with that, we'll just get started with our first question. Is more of like on the how the role of CISO, what is the role of CISO in today's environment and how it has changed over the last, I would say, 10 years, and where it's going in next 5 years. So Bill, how about we start off with you?
Sure. How's the role changed in the last 10 years?
Yeah.
I'd say it's changed for the better. The CISO role was more 10, 15 years ago it was a little bit more understated, typically reporting into a CIO. It was a secondary. I have a very public opinion on the term Chief Information Security Officer. I believe most of us aren't. If you don't report to a CEO, the C in the title is misleading, and that causes problems. So I think we're seeing it change. We're seeing it get moved up to a seat at the table in some cases, in a lot more cases, which is good. I think it's become more of a business role, and it needs to continue down that path. It needs to sort of step away from being very technical and application tool driven, and it should be moving closer to a risk. And I've been very public on this. I think the CISO title should go away completely, should be replaced by Chief Risk Officer, because the decisions we make should be based on risk to the company. And the implementation of the tools we choose is simply to achieve that risk, versus trying to secure everything all the time, everywhere. So I think it's definitely a fluid title. It's definitely a fluid role. I know a lot of people that are quitting simply because they've seen, the pushback from a legal perspective. Mr. Brown over at blanking on the name of the company that he's at, but being named as a defendant in an SEC lawsuit.
Yeah.
SolarWinds.
Yeah.
People seeing stuff like that happen, the Joe Sullivan issue. I know a lot of CISOs that are simply going, I'm done with this. I've got the experience. I'm going to go be CISO. I'll be a consultant. I'll do fractional work. And then I'm not on the hook for it. And I totally get it. As a CISO for a venture capital firm, I'm not beholden to any audits. I owe no audits to anybody. It's beautiful. And I provide vCISO services to portfolio companies, which means they call me. Maybe they have an issue, a problem. They think something's happened. They'll call me. I will give them advice. I will send them resources. I will sit on the phone. I'll hold their hand, whatever they need. But I will hang up eventually, and they will have to go do the work. And I'll check in on them to make sure that the work gets done. But I'm not on the hook for the work, which is a nice way to be a CISO, because you're not staring down the barrel of the gun every time something goes wrong.
So this company sorry, I'm asking a question even though I'm on the panel.
Yeah.
So these companies where you provide consulting services, who is on the hook then? Is it the CEO? Or
CEO typically, yeah. Whoever. So with a portfolio company, whoever is in charge of security, and quite often, if you're seeing sort of those earlier stage companies, it's head of engineering. Sometimes it's GC. The head of legal might be responsible, or the CEO themselves have, because we tend to deal in, like, we are pure B2B SaaS. Most of our founders, a lot of our founders are technical resources. So ex-engineers, product managers that are coming up and building new products, building new businesses around it. So they have an idea of what's supposed to be going. I'll say this: the quality of what I see in early stage companies today from a security perspective is fantastic. Like the number of companies that have come to me and first question is, well, what have you done? They're like, oh, I've got a SOC 2. Okay, good. Remember, that's the floor, not the ceiling, right? We have a starting point, but great that you got that when you still don't have an official head of security. I think that's fantastic.
No, that's awesome, Bill. Thank you so much. So Jayshree, how about, I know you're also involved, but not fully as a role of CISO, but in that same.
Yeah. So
Go
I
ahead,
think
please.
what I see our CISO do, actually, there is some news coming out soon. But what I see our CISO do is he has tried to build a security mindset, which he has spent a lot of time in, and then also the team which does the emerging threats and also risk management are like given a lot of highlight because of the nature of it right now, and also work from home and all that has also added to it, right? But also the challenges I feel the CISO, I feel he's facing, he's never said that, but I think they are facing the budget constraints, so that because even though you do a security mindset, the budget is an issue. And then also there is a talent shortage. We see that. And like having this remote work is also adding to it. Of course, we have Zscaler to protect us. So Bill must know that Humana is a big Zscaler customer. But I see those kind of challenges where even now other is the privacy and all that. Like with AI, it is going to be a lot of data privacy also, because people unknowingly are going to click on stuff and use ChatGPT. So there's like, they have to block things so that you don't start putting project plan in ChatGPT and asking questions. So I think, yeah, I see that from our CISO standpoint. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jayshree. How about in this? I mean, you have dealt with security community. What is, what have you experienced in terms of how the CISO's roles have evolved, even though I know you have not been a practitioner CISO, but in the industry?
I think as a founder, I think the role of CISO is very instrumental. So I remember when we sold a product to Chevron, who happened to be our first customer in my previous startup. There was no CISO role. So we sold to John, who was a CIO, and then John then rounded up 5 different teams, including a network admin and a guy who managed the Active Directory, and then essentially a team formed, which looks like a very much a CISO team right now. So CISO as a role did not exist. And this is very analogous to CIO as a role, which did not exist in the 90s. It was somebody owning the IT back office and owning the data center. The guy would report to the CFO in many companies because it was a cost center. And of course, it became more strategic from a back office to the front office, whereas he would become a preacher of the best practices of technology adoption, etc. So I think this is a change for the good that we have a CISO role. I agree with Bill, the title could be whatever, but the CISO role should report to the CEO, where the security of everything is the reputation is of everything equals revenue, and Wall Street wants to be happy. So I think 100% agree that the evolution is much necessary.
Yeah.
Victor has a question.
So been in mix of IT and security roles for going 25 years going, have been VP of IT and 2-time CISO, generally in a hybrid role of overseeing IT security and also compliance in between. Mostly in SaaS and payments world, and now I work in a security company focused on securing the critical infrastructure. My question is, being in contact with various CISOs in the tight-knit community, I keep on hearing CISO roles should really be broken into two different distinct roles, right? And this is in reference to AI and data privacy and data governance and actual security. And so, I kind of want to hear the panel here, especially from Bill, that do you see a separation from either from a technical role to a more business and risk-based role, or traditional security versus data privacy type of role? Really, my question is on this. It should be separated into two roles, and what's your take on that?
So if you're asking, should it be separated into two roles, and one of those roles is privacy, the other one is security, I would say absolutely not. When you separate security from privacy, you're separating the why from the how, and that is the problem. That's why I think, to me, it's a risk officer. The whole game that we're playing here is privacy. A lot of people think of privacy as personal information. It's a very cognizant piece, health information, that kind of thing. But the reality is privacy is simply the dissemination of information at the correct time to the correct person under the correct conditions. That is what privacy is. So if you've got financial plans, if you've got intellectual property, your next marketing strategy, a new product, your personal information, photos, whatever, and you want to control how that information is used and disseminated, we use security to do that. Security is the tool, or is the collection of tools that controls the privacy of something. Putting the wrong tools in place, putting the wrong privacy in place creates risk for the company, and that's where it needs to go. And I think the more we separate them out, the more siloed it becomes, because for those that are old enough to remember the good old days when you would find a hypo, like a high potential high performer in your core organization in large companies, they would take that person and move them around department to department, division to division. They would run finance, they would work in marketing, they would go to the Asia department or Asia division, or they come back over and do Western Europe, and they were doing that so that they learned all aspects of the company as a future potential CEO, right? And you usually picked 8 or 10 of them and they moved them around, and maybe they didn't make CEO, but you had leaders that knew everything about how the company worked, because decisions on the future of the company required to have intimate knowledge of the full workings of the company. Security leaders should be the exact same. We should be taking people and moving them around, because if you don't understand how HR works, how are you going to protect them, right? How are you going to help manage that data? Same with finance, same with IP, an engineer. If you don't sit in engineering and understand the daily tribulations of engineers and how they're trying to get code out the door to build the product that makes this company money, how are you going to protect them, right? You're just going to simply be shoving things down their throat of, well, I'm going to impose this rule because SOC 2 said so. And that's not how you run it, right? I have made a career out of not implementing large scale security platforms. I've sold them, but I've never implemented, I've never had to put in Zscaler somewhere. I did it for my mother. She liked to click on a lot of stuff, and it was a risk-based decision to put Zscaler on her machine. But you can do it because if you understand the nuances of your company and where you can survive, what you can survive, and how you can survive, and that comes from bringing those divisions together. Like, I have always been head of privacy and security and IT, because I now have the goal, I have the tools, and I have the implementation, because I don't have to go talk to IT and say, would you please roll this out? I own it. I roll it out. So I think if people are saying split it, stop that conversation, get them to stop it, and get them to start bringing this back into a singular department that runs risk for the company from a technology perspective.
I would add more. I would add compliance as an example, because the reason compliance exists
as well.
Yeah, probably give more responsibilities of privacy, risk, and compliance, of course, to the CISO.
Yeah, I can accept, I can understand if compliance is separate, because who watches the watcher, right? I'm going to do all this stuff. Need to maybe have somebody else come in and say I'm okay. But as a compliance professional, I can run my compliance department and have a third-party external run my audits, right? So I bring in E&Y or I bring in KPMG, and they are my attestation that I'm doing what I say I do.
So like you are saying that the auditor should be different than somebody in your team.
Sometimes, like you can have internal auditors on your team that will help you understand when you go to work with your external auditors, a like for like commonality. They'll have the same language, they'll understand the rules, they'll understand how things are done together. It can be difficult for technical CISOs going into discussions with external auditors who tend to be more versed in the legal aspect of it and how to render an opinion. And I have watched CISOs. It's kind of like watching Law and Order. They literally confess to stuff, and it's like line of sight here, line of sight. Just remember line of sight. If you don't say it and they don't see it, it does not exist. So there's nothing wrong with having it inside, but to have that full trust built into your audit, you're going to need a third-party independent auditor that comes in and verifies what you do.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. So we have other CISOs also. I can see a number of them, and of course, a lot of founders. I see it right away. Mike Machado with the baseball hat. Hey, Mike, how are you? Good to see you. Mike's been a veteran CISO. So what, any insights you would like to provide on what Bill said? And if you want a couple of lines, if you're not, for other audiences you don't know here, introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure.
And also the role of CISO, because like I said, you've been part of a number of companies as a CISO.
I joined late, so if there's an opening question, I missed it. The CISO's role.
Yeah, changing role.
I'm Mike. Nice to meet you all. I definitely think the role is evolving, right? It's multifaceted in my experience. I've been a CISO multiple times at multiple companies, at different size companies, and worked in security at all sorts of different size companies. But I mean, it's part technical, right? Because we're securing technical infrastructure. It's part business risk management. There's a lot of translation and storytelling and connecting of the dots between different audiences. That's become part of the role. It's it's more business focused than it used to be, or at least it's often more business focused than it used to be. In really small organizations, I think it still tends to be mostly a technical role, and it kind of shows that security maturity evolves as an organization grows as well, right? Meaning that a CISO at 1,000-person organization is probably going to have different expectations than at a 200-person organization, and different expectations than at a 5,000-person organization. That's my opinion on some of the evolutionary trajectory of the role.
Thank you. Appreciate Mike. And so we have also Puneet. I have a few folks from Australia joining, so I'd like to give them an opportunity. Puneet is Puneet, maybe you can introduce a couple of lines. You're in Australia. I'm sure you're enjoying a nice weather there. And then maybe you can tell with your background in the whole cybersecurity arena and CISO's roles, etc., and how you see it.
Thanks, Naveen. So my name is Puneet. I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. It's really nice, sunny today. So in my experience, I would say like what the folks, so there's a technical component, there's a risk component. You also had to wear the compliance hat. You had to have the financial hat as well, because it's at the end of the day, business is all about the numbers. And the new laws coming in, we have got the ESG, which is the environmental sustainability regime coming up as well. So if you're using the AI workloads, I think the question is going to be asked, like, if it's not an efficient use of AI workloads, why are we consuming so much of energy? So lots of inputs from lots of different actors and compliance. But I think growing field is the growing pains, and it would be the road will keep on evolving. And yeah, looking for the best of the technology and the best of the abilities. And nice to be here. Back to you, Naveen.
Thank you. Thank you. And any other ones like who are CISOs? Randy, I see you there riding a motorbike with your beautiful dog there on your back.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm on driving and I'm safe. I'm in LA traffic right now. Randy Barr, been a CISO for many years, WebEx acquisition through Cisco, security leader, Qualys, head up security leadership positions at Zoom. The role has been interesting. I agree with Bill with the title is really just the title there, and the background and experience of some of these security professionals may not necessarily be there. And I say that because I transitioned more towards an advisor, fractional CISO, mostly because I was more concerned about personal liability. And when you see what you see, and when you try to drive security program and you get the pushback that you get and know that there are security issues, then you have to start thinking about your own personal liability. So I'm seeing that more and more. When I help other companies try to hire for a senior security role, other people or other individuals with less experience wanting that CISO role. They want that title. And so it's interesting to see the amount of candidates that are coming in trying to push for that role, but not asking the important questions. What is the rest of the company? What is the reporting structure? What is the program? So it's interesting to see that. Now, when it comes to talent pool, I think a lot of that's going to be addressed with the new technology that's coming out. You have AI that's definitely paving the way for some of these new innovative ways to build out some of your programs, addressing some of the analysts, level 1 and level 2 analysts, depending on what roles they are. So it's interesting. Curious to see what the rest of the conversation comes out of this evening. Thanks for giving me that few minutes here, Naveen.
Thank you, Randy. So one more, I think, Thomas, thanks for joining. Thomas is the head of security compliance at IT at Relational AI. Thomas, would you like to provide any insight or any questions you have? I know you're on mute if you want to unmute yourself. Thomas, can you hear me? Or unless it looks like you're just in a listening mode. Anyone else who wants to? And then before we jump into our second theme, which is more around the AI security.
Can I
Yeah.
put in a few words? Naveen, Shantanu here.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So yeah, I have not been in the CISO role per se, but I have been advising the CISO.
So Shantanu is also calling from Australia. As you can see the sea behind him, I guess, if it's real or virtual.
No, it's not real. It's the
okay, all right. Seem like you're in sunny down under island.
Yes,
or whatever.
It's quite sunny here. That's good. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, please go ahead.
So I've been in IT and cybersecurity for a couple of decades now, and in my last role, I've been actually advising to Australian federal agency called AFP, which is the police, on their cybersecurity to their CISO and the deputy CISO. So one thing which I actually found, and that probably is not only relevant for AFP, but for private organizations with customers as well, that there are two aspects to cybersecurity. One is the internal cybersecurity of the organization itself, and then another is to actually help the customers or things like that. In case of AFP, for example, they have the role of law enforcement, and as such, they need to look at cybersecurity failures of various different organizations within Australia and things like that. So those are completely two different types of cybersecurity roles that are there. And in AFP, how they manage it is actually they are managed by two different teams altogether. So I would like to actually understand if there is any other perspective that the panelists or anyone else here actually thinks that should be combined, because I think that my personal opinion is that is well kept separated, because they have completely different kind of outlook and roles and responsibilities.
What are the two responsibilities? So one is an internal one, I guess. So if you're talking law enforcement, there's an internal CISO that handles things within the police force. And then the second one's, what's the second one?
That is for the law enforcement itself. So for example, if there is a...
Oh, like cyber crimes? So investigation of cyber
crimes. Or there are, other federal agencies which actually get involved in a cyber incident or things like that, then that has to be managed. So they have a completely different set of tools and techniques of handling. So, yeah.
Yeah, that I wouldn't put those two together, simply because you're absolutely right. They have completely different mandates. They're going to have a different skills. Now, it's not to say that the ones that handle, say, cybercrimes can't help the internal CISO with issue or strategy, or say, here's what we're seeing out there. Here's some recommendations for defense. They can work together, but it would not I couldn't see why they would want to have the two run together, because internal is a cost, external is a service to your community. So in this particular case, they're not making money on either. But if you're running this from a business perspective, that's kind of like your threat intel, your pen testing team. If you're a company that does pen testing, they probably do not report into the CISO of the pen testing company. The CISO is running all aspects of security, but the service being delivered is probably being governed by, PMs, CTO, CEO, that kind of thing. So it's heading up a different side. That's just my opinion, but it sounds like it makes sense to keep them separated.
Yeah, I think the same analogy, I would extend it. Like any product company, you have a CTO that is responsible for the technology of the product, which is the service they are providing the customer. So in this case, the AFP is providing, cybercrime fighting as a service, as a product to the community, and hence a different infrastructure versus the infrastructure's role, which is the CIO, which is totally different, like two disparate set of offerings, internal versus external. So, adding on to Bill's point.
Absolutely. And similarly, in a private organization where they have to look at, for example, two aspects. One is the supply chain security, and another is any kind of customers breach which might, start affecting the organization itself. So that is equivalent to what AFP handles. So is that something should be handled separately as well, or that you think should be put under the same cover?
Well, I think if you look at even going back to my days at Zscaler, the product security teams that handled attacks and handled threat intel for the customers did not report into the CISO. I don't know if it does that today, but it wouldn't make sense.
That's exactly.
Yes, it is something that a CISO could do, but because there's a different mandate, and again, maybe Zscaler's changed, and I do believe they actually have a global CISO or several global CISOs now. I think you could make a case for it, but I think separation of church and state there makes it a little bit cleaner, especially on your financials, as to what's an internal cost to the company and what's part of the cost of goods sold. So I think keeping them separate there also makes some sense on the balance sheet.
Absolutely.
Looks like Rama has a question. Hey, Rama, can you introduce yourself 2 lines quickly?
I'm Rama. I'm one of the co-founders, CTO at Chavi.ai. And we are more in the insurtech business. So we're doing predictive analytics for claims. So my question is, so in our company, there's a few different, like what the kind of work that we are doing, there are a few different aspects. One is the information security aspect. Obviously, we have to make sure the systems are secured. Because we do get customer data, we are SaaS hosted, we have to make sure we have all the security aspects met on that in terms of keeping that. The other is compliance from a perspective of insurance regulations, regulatory compliance and what we need to do from that perspective. So the way we are handling it here, we don't have a CISO per se. I'm kind of playing the role of the CISO as of now. From a information security perspective, I've kind of set up all the security controls, and Bill, to your point, we are SOC 2 compliant, but like you said, it's just the beginning, right? There's a lot more to be done. But then we also have a separate person who is more on the regulatory side, right? He's the chief compliance officer who is looking at it more from the industry regulations, what the new AI regulations are coming up with, especially, and other things that we need to take care of. Now, how do you handle something like that? Like, do we keep them separate typically, or is it a better idea to have them all report into one person? Like, how does compliance versus information security play in?
Compliance is what you have to do, right? So that's somebody that's spending their time understanding the legal implications of a regulatory ruling that may or may not apply to you, and then you're going to have to figure out how it works. Combining it in a startup, having your chief compliance officer also run security, I don't have a problem with it. You're going to be a little bit more nimble. You're going to be a little faster. That compliance officer is going to be able to say, look, here's the things we have to do. Here's the things we'd like to do. Here's the things we're not going to do. And here's why. and then have some technical folks underneath that are able to implement solutions that achieve those goals. Will that stand the test of time? No, it won't. And that's sort of the problem. We have the concept of CISO and head of security baked into what we do. And it's interesting because you talked about security and you got to secure things and compliance. Security is confidentiality, availability, and a lot of people are forgetting this one these days. They're just leaving availability out, and integrity, right? So there's a bunch of things within managing the security of data or managing the security of anything that come out the other end that feed into compliance and et cetera, et cetera. So you will probably end up having to get a head of security. You may have to get a CISO because depending on who you sell to, your customers will probably be less cutting edge or less advanced in their thinking. And they are always, especially in the insurance world, you're going to go against regulatory compliance, right? Plain and simple. And if the regulations state CISO, you will have a CISO, your customers will have a CISO, even if the CISO isn't necessary. And that's where you start to see the CISO getting buried in places. I've actually seen CISOs that were directors reporting to senior managers, reporting to VPs, like so buried down there, but the title was there, right? I'm going to say again, there's nothing wrong with it. Like if that's what your business needs and that's the way you do it, then go for it, do it. But you will find it waters down the reality of it when people start digging into it, right? So yeah. I think keep it in compliance for now if that's nimble.
Part of having a time, I have the title CISO actually in my company, also including CTO and other titles. And I do play that role. I mean, actively, I do play that role as well in terms of making sure everything is secured and making sure all the aspects are met from a technical perspective. But I was just curious more from the compliance part, and I think you answered my question on that. Thank you.
Just understand that there is something coming that friends of mine are working on, and I am helping push. And we are going to start certifying CISOs that somebody cannot just simply say, "Hey, I'm a CISO," because we're ending up in a lot of legal situations and ending up in a lot of places where people carrying that title are diluting it and causing a lot of misunderstandings around it. And I think it's time that it starts to be recognized. I'll be honest. I was glad that Sullivan and Brown I'm not glad that they got charged. I'm glad that issues like that were brought to the forefront. That almost came out the wrong way. I'm glad that they came out, that those kinds of issues have come out, because it's legitimizing the role. It's getting visibility to what the role should be, where it belongs in the company. And then we're going to have to start putting some credentials behind it to actually make sure that, people do have the experience, that you didn't just graduate university, get an MBA, and now you're a CISO. That makes no sense. We have some of those, but that is coming. That we're hopefully going to push for that, and we'll expect everybody to support us.
Thank you, Bill. I would like to focus more on the AI security now. Okay, so what do you think, Bill? How do you see? I know you are obviously probably working with a number of your portfolio companies, also from the let's say I would say from an organizational perspective, how are they looking at all these proliferation of the AI application solutions? Like even I have tons of customers who are building our own AI-based solutions. How do you look at it from a security perspective? Like a security perspective, AI security, and second is using AI as one of the tools for the security. There are two.
So interestingly enough, AI, big quotes around it, has been in the security industry for a long time. We used it in sandboxing, right? Machine learning has been there. Right. It's how a lot of antivirus was being run when it was going. So I will say this as well. There is nothing in this world that AI will not touch. For good or bad, I don't know, but it will touch everything. It's the replication of the human mind and thinking, which means if it can do that, it will touch anything from making tables to nuclear weapons. And the frothiness around the market is insane. I was doing e-commerce in 97, and the explosion in 2000 and then the dot-com bust. I was there for that. I was there through mobile. I was there through SaaS. This is crazy. Like this, the valuations, the money that's being put into it, the bet on the future of what this does, because it touches everything and because it will take over, is overshadowing everything. The security on it's really, really interesting. JP Morgan, for a long time, I'm not sure where they stand today, but for the first couple of years there, literally had a policy: you will not use AI anywhere in the company. Every employee was banned from using AI. And they had an entire division with something like 40, 50 people that was dedicated to the development of AI solutions and tools, because they fully understand this is the future of it. But they also said the risk of our customer data ending up in a training model, ending up in a log somewhere, because somebody, like, so many people forget that when you put stuff into a prompt, it goes into the logs.
Yeah.
Like just regular logging, it's in there. I had a conversation with somebody at OpenAI, and they said the stuff people were putting into prompts early days was staggering, like just unbelievable, that they did not realize that what they typed was recorded somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
the best way, Bill, there was a post on LinkedIn where somebody said, ask ChatGPT that what does my environment to you look like? Can you guess who I am? And can you draw a picture of me with what I do daily? And there were some people who came up, ChatGPT came up with a picture of the person with 2 cats and a kid and stuff like that. So it used the data which was fed in for some or the other
somewhere
reason.
else. Yeah. And the piece that a lot of people, I guess, don't think about on a daily basis, because most people don't think this way. We as CISOs are supposed to think this way. But the amount of connected data about you, like everybody always says, oh, my wife and I were talking about brooms, and all of a sudden I'm getting ads for brooms on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. The phone must be listening. The connectivity of your IP addresses and your behaviors are all tied together. So your wife might have been looking at brooms online. You're going to get them because you're coming off the same IP address. It is literally those marketing points are auctioned off live, 24/7, 365. They're constantly auctioning these things off live. That's why Apple brought out that Ask Not to track across applications, because applications were sharing data across them. And they were now taking all of that data and feeding it into LLMs to get predictive models on what you may be doing or what you may be looking for. Oh, Bill's gone out and bought a circular saw, some wood, some nails. He's going to need a broom or a vacuum because he's obviously doing some sort of, and suddenly I'm getting construction or I'm getting electrician ads or stuff like that. That's where we're at. That is today. This is happening today. Now then you start to put small models and large models against it. And small models are statistically just as efficient as large model, or just as accurate as large models, only they take a little longer to get there. But what I see within the VC world is that we are seeing more and more small models being built to be very specific, just like security tools were becoming best of breed for a very narrow approach. Small models are starting to do that. Large models are creating agentic connectivity so that they can reach out and touch small models and control them. And I think that's when it gets really, really interesting. And throw on top of that what everybody has forgotten about over the last 2 years. Quantum computing is making massive leaps in the background, in behind AI. In fact, they just released a study that showed a regular computer outperforming a quantum computer on a quantum algorithm. And when you start to get into quantum encryption, or the lack thereof, once it can break it, we are into a real interesting place in the security world.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
it is interesting you make mention of people putting things on ChatGPT. So it was found in some of the federal agencies in Australia where they were using sensitive data on ChatGPT, and it was a big kind of chaos from that point on. So yes.
Thank you, Shantanu. We have only 10 minutes. I wanted to see the number of other new folks here, see someone else wants to have any insights or wants to engage. Kevin, Kevin Wheel or Weil. So hopefully I'm not butchering it. So do you want to introduce yourself? And or if you have any insights, looks like you put a question in the chat. Is there anyone, or maybe the question? Okay. So anyone else, anyone else here from the founders? I know I see Saurabh. A number of folks here are doing very interesting things with their companies. If you guys have any questions or insights you want to share.
Yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself. So I'm the CEO of Run Labs. We are an AI security and governance startup, well-funded. Been working in AI security primarily as a researcher now for many years before putting on the startup hat. I was at Symantec and Splunk before doing this. And I think sort of from a founder's perspective right now, it's kind of interesting because there are a lot of problems to be solved in AI security, and not any one of those problems is not significantly big and pants on fire kind of problem, but there are a lot of smaller problems, all of which need to be covered. A question that I had for folks who maybe are seeing this from the other side or maybe from the VC side, that if we are going to try and sell AI governance solution or AI security solution, who should be who is a better bet to sell to? Is it the AI, like the chief AI officer or head of AI, who then has to meet certain compliance or security requirements to get a green light from their CISO, and they have the budget for all these projects? Or should it also still traditionally be the CISO that we should try to sell, who then buys our product and then has to convince their AI teams to start using this for governance and other kind of solutions? So if there's any advice, I would appreciate that.
Could I ask what the solution addresses? When you're saying governance, is it the governance of data going into it, or are you protecting the AI from an external attack?
Yeah, so it's primarily from data going to models and applications being built internally with all kinds of, like you build the customer chatbot and you forgot to put any kind of
almost like a DL. No, like not to belittle, but almost like a DLP for.
DLP is a part of it, but it's it's also what the model is outputting. Is it showing data to an unauthorized user, or is it showing basically some kind of harmful content to, let's say, a customer?
Risk and governance combined. That's what he's saying.
Risk and governance combined. Yeah.
Gotcha. I'd say sell to the CISO. Because from the sounds of it, it sounds like something the CISO is going to have to run, or their organization is going to run it. But I would champion it with the head of AI. Right. And so that a great way to get in is to go talk to the head of AI and say, look, here's how I fit into your world. I'm not going to screw up your entire build, your production. We're going to work well with you. And here's how you position it to your CISO. And let's go to the CISO together. Because then the CISO is going to, first, I will say this till I'm blue in the face. If engineering brings me a security solution that they like, I will buy it 90% of the time without even looking at it, because I don't want that fight. Right.
Yeah.
So if it comes up that way and you sell to in partnership and he's your champion or she's your champion, easiest way in.
So then there's a follow-up question to that. Which budget does it attach to then?
This is LLM more secure or frontier model more secure?
I think it depends in terms of the budget, but I'm not sure that needs to be your problem or your concern. I'd say that too, right? So, I mean, if you have a situation where the head of your AI development team is partnering with your CISO and they're in agreement to go buy your solution, who cares what budget it's coming from, right? Now, in my experience, the budget normally ties back to security because companies want some comprehensive accounting of all the dollars being spent on security, right? But you could easily make an argument that it's also part of the R&D budget if it's guardrails for production, applications that are controlling, that are limiting the output of the model to things that are appropriate and within the intention of what the application is being built for. You could easily say, okay, well, that's an R&D thing, right? Again, I'm not sure that needs to be your problem. I think I do agree with Bill that one way or another, like all roads lead to the security budget. But definitely if, I have a similar experience, right? If engineering's coming to me saying they like a thing, they want a thing, let's, can I please buy them a thing? Then, I will try and move whatever mountains I need to move to get them that thing. Because the opposite is I see a gap, I see a weakness, and then I bring a tool or an idea or a need, and then engineering's nervous about it, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere between, hesitant and like outright thinking it's going to be disruptive. And that's friction that I don't need, that I don't enjoy. That's friction that you don't need in your sales cycle. You're absolutely going to encounter that sometimes, just like any other tool, right? Like CSPM, code scanners, whatever, right? Like sometimes it starts in the security org and they're kind of gradually trying to, win hearts and minds and push out from the center. But if you can make that a tailwind for them instead of a headwind, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Thank you.
yeah.
So Rama, excuse me, I need to give someone else an opportunity because we're running out of time. Sorry about that. So yes, you can connect with them. I was going to ask, there is Sujoy. Sujoy with another larger company perspective. He's with Lam Research, I guess, AI ML ops side. So how do you see, I'm sure vendors reach out to you for these AI-based security solutions to prevent. So Sujoy, you're on mute if you want a couple of lines, and thank you for joining today.
Hi, hi everyone. Yeah, I am in Lam Research, and earlier I was at Verizon Data Services, and security is definitely something where um, it's a challenge because we have very often security at various levels is not enforced or audited in a comprehensive manner. Some applications do pen testing, some do various audits. It is more of a ad hoc manner. And now with the Gen AI data becoming very much like, apart from the example that was given here, there was also Samsung data that was used. Internal data was used on a public open source foundation layer, and that caused sensitive data to go out. So I feel that there's not enough done. I mean, I don't have any deeper perspective on that, but this
So
is
more, do
more
you
useful.
get, but how are you looking at it, like you or your teams over there or your security team? Because I'm sure with your, do you kind of also evaluate from the outside? A lot of AI solutions are coming right now in the marketplace, all these startups like the here in Indus, as well as this, right now Saurabh was mentioning about his. So are you guys evaluating, or do you guys kind of still taking it slow just to watch
I
what's
think
happening?
still taking it slow. We have
Okay.
not yet got into that phase yet.
So that's one question I wanted to ask even Bill, even whether Jayshree in your organization, Bill, you work with a lot of portfolio companies, right? So they're trying to sell to large. How do you see the adoption of these AI solutions which are being, shown to you guys? Let's put it this way.
How do I see the adoption of my portfolio companies' AI solutions?
I mean, AI
to their
solutions selling
customers?
selling into enterprise. How are you generally? Let's say if it's around security, will be of course beneficial here
So
in the
there's some
context of our
places,
meeting.
yeah, there's some places where it's absolutely like off the rails. It's just going gangbusters. Take Horizon 3, right? The core of their pen testing, infrastructure pen testing, is an AI model that makes them better, faster, and more ability to repeat over and over again. And so the adoption there is incredible.
But that's more like a pen testing. It's like, I feel like, I mean, I'm just
that's
in
that's
that
100%.
area, and
Yeah,
we
it's
also
100%
provide a
pen
pen
testing.
testing service thing.
Yeah.
So it's just pure pen testing. I'm talking about more of AI, someone coming saying, I'm going to secure these LLMs or the where your people are going, that's what I was trying to get at.
Oh, I see. Security for the AIs.
Yeah, I mean, not just generic one. Yeah.
We've been looking at them from an investment perspective. We haven't found anything that had a lot of legs that was defensible.
Okay.
The stuff, like, I mean, you saw Hidden Layers came out, what, a year and a half ago or whatever. And that was just like ludicrous numbers. The valuation was insane. As far as I know, they're doing well, and hopefully they grow into that valuation. But that's going to be a long time to grow into that valuation and be able to continue on that path. I haven't seen anything that made a lot of sense. I think the pieces that I do see making sense are closer to protecting users from abusing or being abused by AI, accidentally putting data into AI, sort of DLP governance, and taking ownership of your data as opposed to trying to protect the AI itself. That's just where I've seen more traction.
Yeah, appreciate it. Jayshree, how about you folks evaluating the solution just for
meeting summary, AI meeting summary, we are using it. But when we came to know that they don't redact any PII or PHI, it was like a worrisome thing that let's say we are in a meeting here and we are talking something and there is PHI or PII which is discussed in the meeting, and if they are not redacting it, which is what we have requested. But I think, yeah, we have not used it besides that. And of course, there are teams internally who are trying to do the, what do you call it, use machine learning and AI for like red teaming, trying to stay to some kind of phishing or, some threat vector management, but not like, not.
Yeah, okay. All right. No, I appreciate, because we see a lot of reports, especially from consulting companies, how their AI revenues have grown to like $1 billion. Maybe a lot of it they just lump it to market or
Yeah.
positioning. So I
No,
was
so
just wondering. Yeah.
I was talking to somebody about like how some people say that, oh, we are using AI for the code, but no, they're using AI for code completion. Like if they're typing something and the command will come up. But I don't know if AI has been, or I've not seen it at Humana.
Indus, how about you? You have any insights on that adoption, or I know you guys are focusing a little bit on that side.
I'll make a comment about that. All the consulting companies making so much money. So I'm sure everybody knows that Google has hired some of these big five to red team their own internal models. So tens of hundreds of millions of dollars is going to test these for risk and for awareness and content that could be harmful. So, whereas products are coming out to help me when I deploy an LLM, but many of these frontier models are having their own layers of risk and governance coming on top. So that's the comment I would make.
All right. Anyone else? I think we are off like 3 minutes past. So generally, a last question. I'll just Bill and Jayshree and Indus, if you guys are okay for a few minutes. One question would be more on: do you feel there are certain kind of solution you would like to see for AI security, or around that area, or more AI security, risk management, or even whether compliance? I mean, any solution, like more of a solution, not service.
I'd love to see a CISO in a box.
Yeah, CISO in a box. Okay. All right.
I'm excited about more than AI security is using AI to secure our infrastructure. Things that are gaps, and Bill could chime in, things that are supposed to be done 20 years ago, and those debts have accumulated, and now is the time. And my hope is that AI can come and fix it. Okay, wish list, but yes, that's what we're looking for.
So
Go
we're
ahead.
probably out of time. Naveen, one of the questions I'd appreciate some perspectives on is that since CISOs get bombarded with tools and sales calls, are there any perspectives on how you sort of do due diligence on a tool?
And how do you let them to buy your solution? That's what you're asking, like straight.
But if I'm a CISO, I get a lot of calls from various tool vendors, right? And of course, I can look at Gartner cool quadrants, et cetera, et cetera. But I was just wondering what the different ways of doing that due diligence is.
Well, are you buying? Can I take you out for coffee? I'm just kidding.
Yes, I'd be happy to have coffee, but I would also.
So for me, it depends on if I'm seeking a solution for a need I have, or if it's someone trying to influence me to do something that I'm not already of a mind to do, right? So if I'm looking for a specific solution, I'm going to go talk to other people I know. I'm going to ask them, have you solved this problem before? Do you like the tool you're using? Are you using a tool? Is there anyone you recommend? Yes, I'll look at things from analysts as well, sometimes to educate myself on kind of who are the leading players in a space. Sometimes that exists, Magic Quadrant, Forrester Wave, et cetera. Sometimes it doesn't for sort of like early stage problems that don't yet have a, dare I say, category, right? And then there's the time when I'm not looking, right? Meaning like you're coming to me trying to introduce yourself, get some mind share, etc. And I would say my first gut check is, am I learning something from this conversation? Are you teaching me how to think about a problem I didn't previously know was a problem? Or are you educating me that my thinking on a problem was not complete previously? Like, oh, I thought this was the entirety of the problem, but really the problem's like this big. And then I start to, build a relationship with people I'm learning from. It's more about people than organizations. And if I find this sort of new white space you're creating compelling, right, then I start to feel like maybe this is something I should be tackling, or at least I evaluate, is this something I should be tackling? If I'm not learning, but I'm not seeking to solve a problem, and you're just sort of trying to make inroads with me, the conversation probably ends there, right? Then it's just me too, right? Like, hey, I have a generative AI security solution. I've got another tool that does, pen testing of models. I've got an X, right? And I'm like, okay, well, lots of people have an X. I'm not seeking an X. I'm not learning any more about the space from you. So, nice to meet you. And I'm probably not gonna, I'm not gonna drive the conversation forward, and I'm not necessarily gonna make a lot of time for it to go forward from that point. So at that point, it's, what's the affordability? What's my prioritized list, right? I may or may not find this in my prioritized list, but if you're teaching me a better, smarter way to think about security and do my work, then you have a fighting chance of making your way onto my priority list. Whereas if you're not, just speaking honestly, you don't.
All right. So
Yeah.
Bill and Jayshree, last words to you folks.
Yes, you want to go first?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. This was really eye-opening. I'm going to connect with Rama to find out how he's doing the CTO and CISO role, because we always had a big conflict at Zoom with the CISO and the CTO, where not CTO, but VP engineering, who thought the issue that the pen test team found was not critical and should be medium, and the CISO we were saying, nope, it's critical. So how can you play the same role? But I'm going to take it up with him.
I can tell you one thing for sure. If there is ever a conflict, CISO trumps.
Yeah. Can I get an amen?
Oh, no. If you go to any software development company, engineering wins.
Yes.
Agreed.
It's interesting because that is the crux of the problem, right? Because engineering builds the products that make the money. CISOs come in and stop the products that make the money.
No, CISO secures it so that the reputation is still there, so that
Exactly.
people will buy from him.
I agree with Bill that a lot of companies don't see it that way, but the reality is that, at least for us, I mean, security is the prime. If I don't have security and if I lax on that, I lose my customers.
That's good. Yeah,
Right?
that's good.
So
Good.
that is the most important thing. I don't care if the product doesn't have certain features, but I need the security to be there.
And it's a generational thing. We have to change generations, and we will change generations, and younger people will come up like Rama, and they will have this in their head, and they'll say, this is totally normal. I will not be trying to convince a 68-year-old board member that this is what happens. And they're like, nah, you're just trying to stop us from doing the good stuff. You're just
Yeah. So Bill, I think actually the point you made in the beginning, like you're very happy to see these days a lot of even early stage companies see they have SOC 2, which is many times like a tick mark, but at least they start, because we have a lot of customers. That's our solutions to compliance automation platform, right? So early stage companies come, at least they start putting the best practices, right? So kind of, at least even though it's not fully there. Yeah.
Start with a good base, and you can build off a good base.
So
if you
I
have
think
no
there has
base,
been especially with the automation tools right now, has helped a lot of companies because it can bring down the prices than old style when you have consultants charging and then a lot of headaches back and forth. So I think it is coming in, but like people are getting I think they are educated enough to start very early on. Like even I have customers, number of them who are here, is like, when they start their product, they're doing POC, I say, hey, get started, you'll need at least 3 months minimum observation kind of. At least it's going. All right, with that, I think we'll thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate Bill and Indus and Jayshree, Subra, thank you for your question and to see how CISOs will buy your product. and Neil there, and Supriya, Sujoy, thank you for coming in. Mike, as always, thank you for insights. Praveen, Punasi, Charles, Kirsty, obviously Kirsty is the soul behind this Weaver Cafe and helping us host these, for the community service. Thank you, Kirsty. Kirsty, you want to say some few words?
No.
We appreciate whichever part of the world. Are you in Mexico or Scotland? Where are you? Wherever you are.
Yes. Based out here in Mexico. Just want to say thank you to you, Naveen, for arranging this, hosting this, and to all the panelists and to everyone that shows up and participates. It's great every month to see it. So keep going.
And then we'll put up, once she has a recording, also we'll post it on LinkedIn so you guys can share it. And thank you, Randy, again, Rajesh, Arthur, Andre, Sarang, and Rob. Rob Kiros, good to see you. So you can, if you have any questions, so next time please join. In December, we'll try to hold one before.
Do it in person. Bring us some food and throw a party, Naveen. What would you do all the
Maybe
money
that
that
should
you're
be with your
making?
launch party. We'll do a CISO with your launch of your security company. Of course, we will do that.
Hey, I got a bar in the basement of my office. So if we want to do something live,
That sounds like a
that
good
sounds like a good
plan.
one. Then we don't need food. We just need the borders opening up there.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you
party
so
circle.
much, Bill. Really appreciate
Anytime.
everyone.
Thanks,
Team
everyone.
and Kirsty.
Take care, guys.
Thanks to you so much. All right. Bye-bye.